Do you agree with the President's statement, or do you stand by your previous answer that the difference is caused by multiple factors, including the fact that some states did not do a good job of reopening?
I stand by my previous statement that the increase in cases was due to a number of factors, one of which was that in the attempt to reopen, that in some situations states did not abide strictly by the guidelines that the task force and the White House had put out, and others that even did abide by it, the people in the state actually were congregating in crowds and not wearing masks. I might also just bring something that I thought about and mentioned to you before, Mr. Chairman, that when we talk about crowds and masks, it's always better outdoors than indoors, and crowds indoors is always worse than crowds outdoors. That's the case because of the circulation of air. So we should avoid crowds under any circumstances, but wearing a mask is the critical issue, right?
I agree with that, and I think that I will go to restaurants who allow me to sit outdoors,
right? Yeah.
And not indoors. So I've been following the science, and I've been agreeing with all three of you as to how we ought to conduct ourselves. But let me just say, and I feel very strongly about this, that the First Amendment to the United States Constitution means a whole lot to me. I'm sitting here as a result of a protest. We opened up this meeting today, and many of you, Dr. Redfield most especially, and you, Mr. Ranking Member, talking about our great friend John Lewis, with whom I enjoyed a 60-year relationship. We met protesting, trying to get off the back of the bus, trying to integrate schools, trying to be able to shop in a 5 and 10 cent store and not be arrested for trespassing. Fine for us to get school supplies out of that store, but you can't sit down and eat a hamburger. I'm glad the government did not limit our protests. And so the First Amendment has constraints. The Supreme Court has told us that. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, but you can peaceably assemble to redress your grievances. You can't do that. Well, I don't think any of those people who were marching out here on this plaza that's now called Black Lives Matter Plaza, they were not carrying guns. They were not disturbing anybody. They were peaceful. They were peaceful. When John Lewis went across that Edmund Pettus Bridge, nobody had any weapons. They were peaceful. They were met by weapons. And so I don't want us to get confused here. And so I'm going to close out my 5 minutes here by asking whether or not this disconnect that seems to be between what the White House is saying publicly and what they're sending out to the states privately. And as we mentioned earlier in the letter, several of these states seem to be reacting to the public statements from the White House and not following the recommendations of the task force that are being sent to them privately. Now, this week, a leaked White House coronavirus task force report paints a very different picture. I've got the document here. This was sent out to the states. And those states in the red zone that are refusing to comply is who heard from us. So I'm not being partisan here. We're trying to save lives. I started my professional career as a public school teacher. I have a daughter who spent 25 years in the classroom. And she's telling me every day – how concerned teachers are about returning to school without the safety precautions that so many school districts have asked us to do. That is what my concern is. It's not about going back to school. I know the value of going to school. I know what it is to represent a school district where thousands and thousands of children do not have the internet and cannot receive online learning. I want them in the classroom. I want them to be educated, but I want them safe. And that's what this is about. And I'm not going to ask for an answer to that. I've gone over my time, but I'll yield back. I'll yield to the ranking member.